Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. My name is Gareth, joined by Sab once again. Good evening, Sab. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. We are back once again. It always seems to come around really quickly, doesn't it? We're in Bahrain tonight. It's a particular favourite track of mine. It's under the lights. It should be another good race tonight. We had a superb race last week, didn't we, with these guys, and hopefully we can get more of the same again this season. Like I keep reiterating, this season has been absolutely fantastic to be part of on the commentary team this season, and these guys just keep bringing us great race after great race. So hopefully, me not jinxing it tonight, we should have another one.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate on this one this season alongside yourself, and we'd like to say thanks, guys, for watching the streams because 175 views on last week's race, which is our biggest ever in the history, and it continues to grow. So we're really glad you're enjoying it and that you're along for the ride here for the No Assist League. Yes, it is the round 9 of the No Assist League. It's the Bahrainian Grand Prix. Track length 5.4 kilometres, that's just over 3.35 miles, the 11th longest of the calendar. Longest straight is just over zero point 0.6 of a mile. That's just over a kilometre, 1.09 k's. Top speed guys be doing around here is around 200 to 210 miles an hour on the approach from turn 15 down to turn 1, where full throttle is around 64% of the lap. Gear changes is about 52, give or take. That's 1482 over a 50% distance. It's 15 turns, 2 DRS zones, and it's a hell of a race. And it's going to be one tonight. And you were saying, Sab, it's one that you enjoy. Hopefully, it's one these guys will be enjoying, and will be bringing us what is definitely visually one of the most stunning races of the season.
It really is. This game looks absolutely. This track even looks fantastic on this game. The cars really stand out. It brings a lot of challenges though, doesn't it? This track. With the 3R DRS zones, I always particularly find turns 9 and 10 very tricky because if you don't get that quite right under braking, you can find yourself under all sorts of pressure. If you're especially getting chased by the car behind, and then suddenly down that straight, you can easily be caught out by the DRS. So there's this track. It's got a lot of challenge to it, a lot of chances for overtaking. So we should, in theory, get to see some good close racing tonight from these guys.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks as well. Of course, under the lights are in the desert, so there is particularly dusty, especially in this first part of qualifying. So these guys will be going out there trying to rubber in the circuit a little bit more. So I think we'll see the qualifying times amp up as we get towards the end of the session. But it's definitely one out there that it's very easy to make mistakes. As we said before the race, that penalties here can be applied if you go off wide quite a few parts of the circuit, but it's a high risk, high reward circuit.
It really is, yes. As a few guys are now rolling out of the box there. We've got Nick LJ Thompson. He has moved into the Haas team to team up alongside Schofield from now for the rest of the season. It'll be interesting to see how Nick does alongside his new teammate Schofield. He's currently out there, gone on to the hard times along with FPL Charlie, who, like we said last week, he's probably the form man, isn't he, at the moment out there. He's currently on the hard tyres. Quite a few people opted for the hard tyres, with only one person at the moment, Simon, out there on the soft tyres.
Absolutely. So these guys out there just testing the waters with the grip levels around the circuit, and we'll see. Of course, it looks like we'll most likely be having a dry qualifying and dry race. It's very hard to think that we might be seeing otherwise. So our usual prediction that we end up giving out most weeks, where we think we might see rain, would well, I say that we're probably going to get stung this week now, aren't we? And it'll be a deluge come race time. But what is it about this circuit, do you think, that people tend to enjoy? Because it's a very popular one that we've seen on the calendar for several seasons in a row.
Well, for me, I love the fast flowing nature of the track, and I obviously love the fact that it's a night race now. The cars, like we're seeing now on stream, the cars are absolutely fantastic. And I've always just enjoyed, like I say, the fast-flowing nature of it. The long straights will give you the opportunity, especially down the start-finish rate, give you the opportunity to try and brake a bit later and send one down the inside into turn one. You can, on the other flip side though, get it slightly wrong and outbrake yourself and take the person you're trying to take out. So it's a mixture. Oh, Simon, I've just been watching on board with Simon. He's just starting his first flying lap. He's brought up the first yellow flag of the session so far. He goes into turn two and just loses the rear end slightly, and it steps out on him, and he's underway again. There's no damage on the car in that Renault, so he's off again now. But I can't imagine he'll be staying out on those soft tyres. You imagine he'll be coming straight back into the pit lane. So not a great start for Simon there.
No, equally, Nick L.J. Thompson on a fast lap, the first one to be setting a flying lap. Got a little bit out of shape coming into turn 10. Of course, very difficult corner off camber, downhill into that hard left turn. And Nick got a little bit sideways, and it'll scrub off possibly even a second's worth of time there for the newly promoted Haas driver who will be joining Scopefielder. And yeah, Nick coming into the final corner now. He will be the first one to set a provisional lap time on the board. He'll go straight to the top in the black and gold. Let's see what he can do on the hard tyres. It's a 131.2. We see where else have we got people on track? We've currently got Meg Lugby as Scott does 129.1. So there you go. You can see how much time Scott lost as equally. Meg Lugby doing almost exactly the same as Nick, and in fact a little bit extra as he puts the hammer down at the back end of that Red Bull coming out of turn 10 and puts himself through one of the DRS boards, and so there's styrofoam spewed across the circuit at the moment. But Meg Lugby in the Red Bull as usual, partnered up with MJ Coop, and as he goes just about offline there at the exit of turn 12, just about keeps it on track. But it's that turn 12 and turn 13, and it's particularly tricky around this circuit. You've got to attack it in the right way, because if you go too wide or too narrow, hitting the curb on the inside line will send you, well, in all sorts of directions. But equally, it's that penalty on the exit of turn 12 going over the white line. That's where it will really catch you out, especially in qualifying.
Yes, definitely. I was just riding on board with JJ. He's the first guy to set a meaningful time on the soft tyre. He's just gone second with a 129.7. So it just shows you, doesn't it, how good that lap was for Boy Better Know, a 129.1 on the hard tyres. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, that curb on the inside, last season was a victim of that curb. I was following, I can't remember who it was now, but I was following somebody close and just clipped that curb. And like you say, as soon as you dip a tyre onto that curb, it is going to bite you hard. And unfortunately, I spun out and ended up colliding with the wall, and it put me out of the race. It can be very vicious. Like you say, you've got to get that line absolutely perfect, because like you say, if you drift wide, it can also put you in all sorts of bother as well. But that, along with like what I said earlier, line 10, there is a lot of good challenging corners on this track which really do test you and require you 100% concentration, not only in a flat-out qualifying mode like these guys are on now, but lap by lap in race trim as well, because if you get one of these corners wrong, you could find yourself from first, where Scott is now, all the way down to 10th and 11th in the space of two corners. So yeah, it's very tricky, but that's another probably reason why we love this track, because it demands so much from you that when you do get it right, it feels so good. I'm just watching Burmeister at the moment. He's currently the only one on the medium tyre at the minute. Nobody really seems to be favouring that medium tyre at the moment, but yeah, he's the only one there in the Racing Point. I think he's currently on the flying lap. A Scopefield there on the hard tyres goes even quicker than Scott now with a 129.0, so just about under a tenth faster than Scott. So some really fast times currently being set on those hard tyres.
Yeah, and as you were saying about the circuit, concentration is key, and it was Scope that was really locked into that lap there. Fantastic lap, very tidy, as Scott goes even quicker, a 28.9 there, so beating Scopefielder's time by just a fraction over a tenth of a second. We've got Burmeister. He, as you said, the only one out there at the moment on that middle compound, and I'm not sure if you saw it flash up, but he's been given a 5-place grid penalty for contact with FPL Charlie. So whilst Charlie was on a cool-down lap, whilst Burmeister was on an out lap, there must have been contact between the two because he's been slapped with a 5-place grid penalty, and that's not ideal because it's not as if you will be dropped into a position where if he starts in, well, if he finishes in the top 10 and gets that penalty, he will start on used tyres. He won't get that option, even though he's starting outside of top 10 on the track. He won't have the option of going onto the fresh tyres. So Burmeister's going to kind of have to hope for possibly being relegated outside of the top 10 and starting towards the back, because that 5-place grid penalty, that's a real killer blow so early into the session.
It really is. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what actually happened there? Must have been significant contact in order for the race stewards to give him that 5-second penalty. I'd like to see that back from his point of view, just to see what exactly it caused it. But like you say, that is a real blow for his chances here at the minute. He's currently in 5th, so he would drop down to 10th now, like you say, on those used medium tyres. So how do you play this now? Do you just have to hope that you eventually drop down and start further back, knowing you can start on a fresh set of tyres, or do you just try and see how far up the grid you can get and try and limit the damage of that 5-second penalty?
Yeah, and he's currently in 5th at the moment on a 29.5 on those mediums, so it's the fastest of the medium, well, fastest the medium runners. I don't believe anyone's set a competitive time on the mediums as of yet, but you can see the likes of Dragio, Harry and Speed Queen are all on the yellow wall tyres. We're just on board with M. Doran, who's coming up to the final corners at 14 and 15 now to end his lap, and he's currently not going any quicker on this one. Does he bail out of it? He does. So the McLaren into the box at the end of the lap, and we've got Scopefielder currently going just over a tenth of a second faster, which would put him up into provisional pole position with 8 minutes and 24 seconds left to go in the session. We'll stay with the Swede until the end of the lap, just coming around turn 13 now, and gets over the curbs there and back out. Yeah, you can see it just bumped him off onto the outside line at turn 13. Will that have cost him that tenth of a second that he needs to get above Scott in the table at the moment? And you can see getting all out of shape coming out of the final corner, pushing too hard, and yeah, Scope deciding to bail out of that one as well. So it looked like it was a promising lap, as we've got that was close. I just caught on board with Speed Queen as it looked like MJ, I couldn't say if it was either MJ Cooper or if it was Megluppy. One of them lost control of the car in turn 3, and Speed Queen must have missed them by millimetres. So she's on her first out lap, and I'm sure she'll be a little bit displeased with. It looks like she might even be on a flyer now, so that's going to have compromised her time in the start, or the first sector of the race, or the first sector of the lap, I should say. So Speed Queen, she can possibly count herself a little bit lucky there.
It sounds it. I think it was MJ Coop, because I was riding on board with Meg Luppy and he was pretty much on his own at the time. I've just noticed Simon has retired from the session. I don't know if he had an incident on track or he's just retired in the garage, but a minute Simon with only really set a 1:41 times, which is not competitive at all. So you'd imagine when the rest of the guys who haven't set times yet set times, you would imagine Simon would probably be starting at the back. So work to be done for Simon in the race trim. Like you say, we've got Speed Queen just about to start and she's just gone across her first flying lap, a 1:29.0 on the medium tyre. So interesting there from Speed Queen. She looks like she's started to find her form once again. She's picking up her pace quite a bit just lately. Andrew Lockdock, the other guy who's not set a time yet, he's out there on the hard tyres, just around into second sector at the moment in his Toro Rosso.
Yeah, I think we probably would have seen Speed Queen at the top of the standings if she hadn't been compromised on the exit turn 3. So Yeah, that was possibly a little bit unfortunate for Speedqueenator. She currently sits on the front row grid, but in second position. But look how close it is between second and third. Only 8 thousandths of a second between herself and Scopefielder. So Scope, you can see, sitting in the pit lane at the moment, but he has fitted the medium compounder tyre. And good evening to the guys watching. Hope you're enjoying it tonight. I hope you have a good time, and let us know who you're supporting. We've got Sky Z, we've got Colin watching. Good evening. How you doing, fellas? And yeah, let us know if you want to watch anything or if you want to chat about anything. But we've got Adrilotdoc coming up to the final corner now. What can he do? He's on the hard tyres. He's going to stick with the lap by looks of it. So the Toro Rosso is going to come across the lines, passing into the 30s. It's up into ninth position, just inside the 1 minute 29s. It's 1 minute 29.935.
Yes, we've got Harry, last week's race winner, debut winner. He's got some work to do so far this evening, hasn't he? He's currently on an outlap on the medium tyres. He's in 10th place at the moment. I'm sure he'll be looking to improve on that position. But I'm a little surprised because at the moment, White Fountain, one of the championship challenges, still hasn't gone out on track yet with no time set, and with just over 4.5 minutes left. You'd imagine White Fountain's going to have to go out soon, and if he does, he's probably only going to have 1, maybe 2 laps to do it. So there's going to be some pressure on White Fountain if he does eventually come out.
Doran currently going 8 thousandths of a second faster at the moment, so he is on a flyer in the McLaren, just sat on board with JJ at the end of his lap, and unfortunately he can go any quicker, so he's still in 8th position at the moment. We just heard from Simon, who said slightly embarrassing, lost the car in the final corner, so he's going to have a lot to do in this race. He's going to be starting towards the back end of it, if not last, with as you said, with White Fountain yet to set a time, and we know that the Belgian can pull a fast lap out of absolutely nowhere, so expect to see him challenge late in the session. But we have got 3 minutes and 52 seconds left to go, so time for these guys to make one more lap if need be. Doran's going to come across the line on the mediums. Where does he go? It's up to the top. It's a 28.9, so he's half of a tenth faster than Scott, but he's immediately beaten by Burmeister on a 28.3 on the softs. So the first driver to go onto the softs, but as I said, sitting on that 5-place grid penalty. So Burmeister in the racing point, currently your pole position holder, but we've got 3 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the session. Plenty of time for changes.
Yes, and he looks like he's going for a case of just trying to limit that damage of the 5-second penalty, doesn't he? That'll drop him down to 6th place if he stays there. I'm on board with Harry at the moment. He's 1.4 seconds up on his old lap time. He just runs a little wide there as he's coming now down to the he's slowed down, so he must have had his time invalidated. Harry slowed down, wondering whether he goes for it again or comes into the pit lane, but he was absolutely flying. Harry does go for it again now, so he's going to have another crack at it. But yeah, it's pressure's on for Harry. He was flying there, but if he runs a little wide off track again, he's going to end up picking up an invalidation, which he definitely doesn't want, and does definitely not want to be starting down in 10th place after a superb debut last week.
Absolutely not. 10th place, the worst place you could be starting on the grid pretty much, because you're caught right in the middle of the pack, and equally you're having to start on worn tyres, and obviously the guys behind you much fresher. And sorry for guys, as I was just flicking through the screens there, I realised it's quite jarring to watch as someone flicks through people's points of view, but I'll try to keep that to a minimum. We've got a yellow in sector 2 at the moment as Harry going wide again there at turn 8, so that's going to compromise him if he's going to want to set a fast lap. Does he lock up? No, he does keep it nice and tidy into 10. DRS coming open now. He's got a car in front weaving. Hopefully they notice that the Racing Point will be steaming up towards him at pretty fast speed. They do, so they get out of the way. I believe that's a Haas, or it might have been a Mercedes, sorry. And yep, Harry now making his way through turn 12 and into turn 13. He's 1.2 seconds faster, and at the moment that would put him up as a 129 flat, so that would put him around about 4th position. He can just about get up onto the second row of the grid. Does he go any faster over the last part of the lap? He's not going to have any more time to set another one after that because he's already done a lap on these mediums. He's not going to want to do another one. He's up onto the front row of the grid. So 28.6. He had a mega last corner there. And currently we've got a Racing Point locking out the front row.
Nice lap there. Meg Luppy, he's coming round the final corner now. He was up on his previous time. What can he do? Can he improve? He's in 9th. He jumps up to 4th. That's a very good lap there from Meg Luppy in the Red Bull. 128.9. So there's a lot of high 128.9s knocking about here. So it's going to be really interesting, really close to see who's going to be grabbing as M. Doran knocks Harry off that front row. M. Doran, usually very good, isn't he, in qualifying? 128.5 for him. So doesn't look like at the minute people are going to challenge Burmeister's 128.3 at the moment, but plenty of fast guys out there for these last few times.
Absolutely. White Fountain is out on his only lap at the moment, so we'll try and catch on board with him in a second. We've just seen what Scott's doing. He's on the mediums as we've got, who's just jumped up there? M. Doran up onto second position on 28.5, so he's gone up and split the 2 Racing Points. Scott is going to come across the split time. It's a half a second faster at the moment, so he's going to be knocking himself down towards a 28.4 at the moment. So that's going to be very, very close for the pole. If he can possibly even challenge Burmeister if he gets a good launch out of this final corner. What can our reigning champion do? He's going to come across the line. Boy better know SB. He goes pole position. It's top of the standings for him. It's a great lap there from Scott, but he's immediately beaten by Scopefielder. Scope with a 27.9. What a lap from the Swede. What can FPL Charlie do? Charlie coming through turn 12 into turn 13. He's 7.5 tenths faster at the moment. Is it going to be good enough to challenge his teammate and his Scopefielder for pole position?
It's going to be close, isn't it? That the McLaren just moves out of his way. He's coming round the final corner now. What can Charlie do? Can Charlie? White Fountain doesn't need much, does he? He jumps straight to the top with a 127.8. FPL Charlie, he's up alongside his teammate in 4th with a 128.2. But White Fountain showing everybody that he doesn't need laps on board. He just goes out there, gets one lap done, and straight on to pole position. Fantastic from White Fountain there.
What a mega lap from the Renault Belgian driver, and he sat in the pit lane for the majority of the session, just coiled, ready to go out there, and when he did, absolutely nailed that lap, a 127.888, and puts himself just around 0.03 of a second faster than Scopefielder, who would have thought that he would have secured pole position after knocking what we thought was an absolutely mega lap from Scott. And but it makes it an all Mercedes second row. But White Fountain, Scopefielder, and we've seen these 4 battling at the front for a lot of races over this season, and we are in store for an absolutely awesome race.
Yes, we are, and I feel for Burmeister. He went for it, didn't he, on those soft tyres, hoping to try and be at the very front of the grid, and unfortunately on the U-Soft now, he's going to be down in 10th place, one of the worst positions. So, yeah, there's work for him to be done there, but before you ask me, I cannot possibly call who's going to win this race. Those 4 at the front are absolutely flying at the moment, aren't they? It's going to be very difficult to call, but for our sake, it's going to be an absolute pleasure to watch.
There you go. White Fountain takes pole position by 24 thousandths of a second ahead of Scopefielder. You've got the all Mercedes second row, Scott and Charlie. Burmeister is in 5th, but will drop to 10th after the penalties. That promotes M. Doran and Harry up. Meg Lugby and Speed Queen will also move up a position, and equally so will MJ Coop. And then you've got Nick L.G. Thompson, Dragio, Adri and Simon all starting on fresh tyres outside in 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th position. And looking at qualifying there, how do you even call a race winner? Because we followed the guys through that, and everyone looking very tidy. Scott is a race winner here in Bahrain before, but White Fountain just came out of the blocks like a man on fire. He had 1 lap to do it and came out there, no pressure whatsoever, and just absolutely nailed it.
he's very confident. Clearly, he's very confident, isn't he? He didn't need to go out there and get a feel for the track. He just knew exactly what needed to be done, and boy, did he do it. But like you say, it's just I finding it impossible to pick a podium. Never mind a race winner. There's four very capable people there of finishing on the podium tonight, and you can't rule out any of the guys further back either. The likes of Harry, for example, who was very very quick last week. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they go with. I assume it's going to be a one-stop race for the guys starting on the medium tyre, then moving on to the hard tyre later on. But yeah, very difficult to call. It's going to be fascinating down into turn one.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really good one. Really looking forward to this one, and it's these sort of races under the lights that you look forward to in the season. As Westy comes in and says White Fountain, greatest of all time, he's the GOAT, and but you can't disagree with lap times like that. And we've seen him this season. He's picked up 3 victories already in the No Assist Championship, and so he is definitely one to beat. But if there are any other drivers that can beat him, it's the 3 that are sitting behind him. But equally, I'm sure that there are plenty other drivers on the grid tonight that will be eyeing up some decent points. We know the likes of M. Doran has gone very well here in the past. Simon is on a charge from the back of the grid, and equally, do we see the likes of Burmeister? Yes, he is compromised being on those soft tyres, but he will be lightning off the line. So we'll see if the Racing Point can make a move down in towards T1. And yeah, so let us know, guys. If you're watching, who have you got for the victory? Who have you got for the podium tonight? It'd be awesome to hear what your thoughts are, who you think is going to take this one, and equally, what's the strategy going to be? Is someone going to mix it up? Are they going to go for a risky 2-stop strategy, or are we just going to play it safe? Are we going to stick with that 1-stop? What would you do if you were in this position, Sab? Are you going to stick with that, keep it safe 1-stop, or do you look at setting a faster first stint and going and possibly setting a medium soft even, or something like that?
I'd stick with a 1-stop personally. If I was starting on these medium tyres tonight, it is the safer option, isn't it? I suppose if you're confident in your speed around here and you can pull a gap on the guys behind, then maybe a 2-stop. But I think that's a bit too risky around here, especially with the pace of the people behind. It's going to take something very special to be able to pull off a 2-stop on these guys. Like you say, just looking down the grid now, there is so many people tonight whose potential to upset the front 4 as well as the front 4 getting on the podium. But I was just looking at Nick Thompson. He's down there in 11th at the moment. He's going to be the one who's going to be starting just outside the top 10. He's starting on the hard tyre, so expect him to go very long into the session, and hopefully for his sake, if he can keep it clean later on in the race, move on to those medium tyres, and expect him to be a lot quicker towards the second half of the race. So Nick Thompson, for me, could be just one to keep an eye on. Not maybe podium, but at least getting right up into those good point scoring positions if he can have a clean race. So likes of them, Drazio as well, could have a good race tonight if they keep it clean.
Yeah, it's going to be a real interesting one. You've got plenty of people from behind that Simon are equally starting on those hards, so plenty of people that might make that reverse strategy come back towards them later in the race. But equally, I was saying about the likes of the top 4, top 5. We've got last week's race winner, Harry B, sitting in 6th position. Speed Queen, she's down in 8th. So you've got a plethora of race winners here in the No Assist Championship, as everyone weaving side to side viciously, trying to get those tyres warmed up to temperature. They know they're going to be sitting on the grid for a little bit of time, waiting for the likes of Adri and Simon to come and roll into their grid spots. And we'll just quickly, as they get into position now, just let you know that top of the standings going into this race is FPL Charlie. So it is Charlie that is leading the championship by 4 points. So he will be looking at extending a lead, but if he's to do that, he's got 3 very, very talented drivers to get ahead of, and we'll go down. We've got all of the cars rolled into position now. We're looking down, the camera's looking right down the straight. Who's going to get the launch off the line? Will it be Fountain? Will it be Scopefielder? Will we see the Mercedes work together? We're on 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Pause. out, and they're off. Or it looks like a slow start there from the Renault. Can the Haas capitalise? White Fountain's going to come across and try and cover him off. Great start from Scott, who's going to sweep to the outside, try and look to the inside, but White Fountain covers off the inside line. Scott goes round the outside of Schofield and up into second position equally. M. Doran has jumped Charlie, but Charlie and him going side by side up towards turn 4. Who's going to get the move done? Charlie's got the inside line, but White Fountain just about holding off from Scott.
Oh, White Fountain got an absolute... His back end nearly went from underneath there. Scott, smelling blood like a shark, he was in there and the door very nearly opened for him. And at the moment I'm riding on board with Scott, and White Fountain just looks like he's on edge a bit. He's not had the best of starts. Yes, he's managed to keep hold of first place, but it looks a very nervous start for him. He's managing to keep hold of that first place a minute, but Scott, as ever, will be definitely putting the pressure on that Renault driver now to try and force him into a mistake. He's seen White Fountain twitching into a few corners, so be hoping to keep that pressure on him and hopefully for him get White Fountain into a mistake. But yeah, good overtake, wasn't it, from Scott around the outside of Schofield there. He got away well with Schofield just dropping down, keeping an eye on Charlie, who's remained in 4th place.
Yeah, Scott getting all out of shape on the exit turn 13, got on the curb, and Schofield is going to almost put the car around, just about manages to get back on the power before Charlie and Harry get into the tow. But look at this, 3 cars are going to go 3 wide down the main straight. Schofield is on the outside line. That's the worst place you could be right now. You're going to have Harry, Scope and Charlie down into 2-1. This isn't a terrible good camera angle. We've got Harry up the inside. Is Scope going to hold on to position? He does. So all 3 holding position at the moment. Great defensive driving there from Schofielder, who just about managed to hold that car in a straight line. Harry now challenging his friend Charlie, and they go side by side there into turn 4. Charlie in the Mercedes just about holding off the Racing Point.
What did Schofield, the world of good there? The DRS wasn't activated. Schofield, who was over a second behind Scott, if DRS had been activated, he would have had Charlie and Harry just fly past him, but he defended well, didn't he, there? He will be wanting now to try and catch up with the front 2 guys, as he's gone a little deep there into turn 10, and he's got Charlie once again closing in on him. Schofield, who looks to be under a bit of pressure at the moment, doesn't he? He's losing time to Scott ahead. It's nearly 2 seconds now, and Charlie, who will soon be getting DRS, Schofield will be under immense pressure soon from the likes of Charlie and Harry, who are very close behind.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch with the battle for the lead. It's currently sitting just under a second there between Scott and White Fountain, but it is Schofield who's under the most amount of pressure at the moment, although there is a nice little battle forming with Speed Queen, Burmeister, Adri behind, and look, there was a little bit of contact with Burmeister as White Fountain does that fastest lap of 32.4. Can anyone beat it on this 3rd lap as DRS is enabled? And so it will be this first DRS straight on the exit of turn 3 as well. We'll see if the Mercedes of FPL Charlie, a current championship leader, can use it to attack the Haas ahead. There you go, that rear wing flap opens and he's going to get that extra bit of drag, or reduction of drag I should say, going up towards turn 4. And yeah, it looks like Scope's just about made a break for it, and the gap has built ever so slightly between himself and Charlie. So pressure off fractionally for Schofielder.
Yeah, the first guy to take advantage of the DRS in that first DRS zone was Adrian. He managed to get the move done on Burmeister. He's now up to 9th and now currently chasing Speed Queen, just half a second behind Speed Queen, and Speed Queen not far behind Meg Luppy as well. So a good battle just about to form for 7th place here, as you've got Meg Luppy, Speed Queen, Adrian and Burmeister not far behind in 10th place.
Yeah, this battle here that's even dragging Simon. You've got Adri and Simon both having made 4 and 3 positions respectively. Simon just about keeping it off of that right-hand curve that we were talking about earlier, can really put the car in the wrong position. Burmeister, he's dropping back on these soft tyres, and we know the soft tyres around here don't last all so long, so he's going to have to watch out because his tyres are going to go off. Simon having a look to the inside of the Racing Point just to let him know he's there. White Fountain set the fastest lap 32.2, but Simon looks like he's going to line up the Racing Point. It's going to be a little bit of a DRS train here, so we'll see who can get the move done. As Nick L.J. Thompson got all out of shape at the exit of turn 10 earlier in the lap, and that dropped him down, but Simon is going down the inside of the Racing Point up into 10th position, but Burmeister is going to hold the inside line for the next corner. They're going to go side by side through into the next DRS straight. It looks like the Renault is going to have the inside line for turn 4, and he goes up into 10th position.
And just slightly behind, Nick LJ Thompson has just got the move done in the first DRS zone on Dragio. Dragio a bit out of shape, and it allowed Nick to cruise up to the back of the McLaren and make an easy move there. Whoa, as Dragio's lost it. He's got onto the curbs and lost it, and very closely MJ Coupe was nearly collected with that, but Dragio having a bit of a nightmare lap 4, and unfortunately for him, it's dropped him to the back of the field.
Unfortunate there for Drajo, and he's dropped a little bit of time there, but it's plenty of laps left to go to get back in the race. 25 laps left to go, and there was tyre smoke leading from the front right there of I believe it was Scott as he came into turn 13, but recovers from it. But that gap now between himself and White Fountain is just under 2 seconds, so White Fountain can settle into the race, get into a rhythm, not have to worry about being within striking distance of the Mercedes behind. But we've got FPL Charlie, who is looking at the back end of Scopefielder. Is he going to close up to the Swede coming down? Scopefielder in fact has got DRS himself, but always going to be a close one between the three. But it's a Mercedes sandwich for Scopefielder, and both of them are both dragging Harry B along with them, so we've got a breakaway top 5 at the moment.
Adrian Lockdock's had a good few laps. He managed to get the move done on Speed Queen, and now down into turn 1 he's managed to get the move done on Meg Luppy, but Meg Luppy is not giving up as Adrian Lockdock just locks up his hard tyres. He keeps hold of the position, but Adrian Lockdock is up 2 positions in 2 laps, so he's having a good race so far on the hard tyres as well. So if he can keep it clean and keep going well, he could be looking good for points later on. Speed Queen, who's challenging, trying to get the move done on Meg Luppy, and Meg Luppy really struggling at this point in the race. He's locked up again as he's lost it. Meg Luppy has lost it right in front of Speed Queen, but somehow manages to keep the car pointing the right way. But you'd imagine Speed Queen Simon will cruise past him, which they do. Speed Queen now has got a very fast Simon right behind her, but Speed Queen now up to 8th place. But unfortunately for Meg Luppy, he's dropped from 7th to 10th this lap.
That's a shame for Meg, and it was almost rallycross, not Formula 1 there, as he came around the hill at turn 10 and off Camber Corner. We've got Harry 0.3 of a second behind Charlie as they get to the DRS zone, but as we said before, a DRS train, so everyone will get it. That flap will open and it negates your advantage that you have on the guy in front, because he's equally got it on the driver in front of him. But you can see the rear red lights blinking on Charlie, so Charlie's saving battery going down the main straight there. So conservation mode for the Mercedes as he's sitting behind Scopefielder, and Scopefielder chasing Scott. You can see all 3 of them there saving a little bit of battery as they get to a heavy braking zone. And let me know, Sab, what's going on.
Simon has just lost it right behind Speed Queen. I was watching the battle between them two, and he very nearly took out Meg, Nick and Burmeister, and Simon just lost it out of turn 2, got onto the curbs, and it spun the car out right into the middle of the track, and he just about avoided everybody, and it's dropped him now to the back of the field. Dragio just gone past him as well, so the pressure was on from Simon on Speed Queen, but Speed Queen managed to keep ahead of him, and it's now promoted Meg Luppy and Nick up into 9th and 10th.
No, that'll be frustrating for the Swedish driver who'd started the race really positively. He was moving up through the field. He's back to 14th and last position, so he's got plenty of time to make up, and like you say, he's going to have to get back past the likes of Drajo and MJ Coupe, who is right on the tail end of Burmeister at the moment, and we'll see if there's any battles going on down the main straight. We've got half a second gaps between Charlie, Harry, Scopefielder once again as MJ Coupe almost gets into the back end of the racing point there, as White Fountain going quicker once again. It's 31.9 for the Belgian, sitting at the head of the standings, but it's that gap's come down by 0.3 of a second, so Scott just about staying with him. As we've got the likes of MJ Coupe now, DRS open. Can he attack Burmeister, whose tyres will start to go off very, very shortly? And of course, he's the only driver to be on those soft tyres. Will MJ Coupe get it sent down the inside? No, he thinks better of it. He's going to line him up for the next 2 corners. You can see you've got Nick LJ Thompson chasing down Meg Luppy ahead as well. So a fun little battle going on, not only for the top 5 positions, but all the way down throughout the grid.
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying to keep an eye on everybody. It's been fascinating to watch throughout, but the battle is really on now, isn't it, for second place? Boy Better Know is starting to form a bit of a train now as he's going down that second sector straight with the DRS open on Schofield, the DRS open on Charlie and Harry. Pressure is going to start forming on Scott because White Fountain's keeping that gap, isn't he, from DRS of Scott? So Scott's going to have to get his defensive boots on in a moment as they head towards the start-finish straight. He'll know he's going to have to really get on it to make sure he can keep that gap between Schofield, who's just about half a second behind. So pressure really on here for him to keep hold of second place.
Absolutely. Harry very close to the rear end of Charlie this lap, and he's tucked right in behind the Mercedes, so it looks like he's going to get a good run on him going down the main straight. Got a yellow in sector 3 at the moment as someone lost it through
MJ Coop.
It's Coop in 12th position. He's lost it, and hopefully he can get back on paces. There you go. Charlie just about... Oh, sorry, Harry just about getting it slowed there. You can see the front right getting locked up, but we've got a battle now of Charlie sitting right nicely in the toe of the Haas, and he's going to go to the outside to try and sweep around the outside into turn 4. There's a little bit of contact between the two, but it looks as if Charlie is going to get the move done. In fact, it's almost brought Harry into play between himself and Scopefielder, but Scope just about getting onto the racing line. Harry had the Charlie had the outside line, got it done around the outside, and there was a little bit of contact, a little bit of wheel banging, but pretty clean between the two. But it's now race on between the two Mercedes, which is what we had last week. Can Scott keep his teammate behind, which is something that he couldn't do after wing damage last week?
The battle, Schofield actually did get ahead of Scott briefly down into turn 1, but he just got him compromised, and that is what allowed FPL Charlie to cruise up to the back of Schofield, and unfortunately Schofield went from second place briefly down to 4th now, so he'll be definitely wanting to rectify that, as we had a brief yellow flag in sector, it's Dragio, I think Dragio was running slowly out of turn 10 there, so an issue there, but yeah, Schofield unlucky there because he nearly did get the move done on Scott, and unfortunately it's dropped him one place back into 4th.
And we'll see here the battle between the teammates, and Charlie's going to look to the inside of Scott down into T1. Does Scott give him the room? He does. Very nicely done, but Scott's going to try and cut him back and go around the outside once again, going tight, going deep, going tight, going deep. But Charlie up into second position. Scott's going to try and come back at him, but his teammate had DRS, so Charlie had the advantage going up towards turn 4. Scopefielder and Harry still staying with it. This pack of 4 are absolutely on the edge.
They are, and who's it benefiting the most? White Fountain now has a 2.3 second gap over FPL Charlie. It's rising as well, 2.4, close to 2.5 seconds. So while these 4 are squabbling over second place, White Fountain, as long as he keeps it on the track, he's just running away with first place at the moment. So these 4 battling hard, which is fantastic for us, but it's only benefiting one guy at the moment.
And working very nicely indeed for the current race leader, as we've got this fantastic battle going on for second through to 5th position, with the two Mercedes leading the Haas and the Racing Point of Scopefielder and Harry B. Of course, Harry, last week's race winner, dominant display in China. We've got a battle between Nick and Meg swapping over in 9th and 10th position, and the Haas sweeping around the outside into turn 12 there, as Burmeister picks up 3 seconds.
Yeah, fortunately for Meg, he got all out of shape coming out of, I think it was turn 11. He was all out of shape, the car pretty much sideways, and it opened the door for Nick to get the move done. And unfortunately for Meg, he's just running wide there as he's going down the straight. Unfortunately for Meg, it's dropped him down, now down to 10th place, and Nick up to 9th on those hard tyres. But like I wanted to say earlier, Agilocdoc on the hard tyres at the moment is just 3.8 seconds behind M. Doran. If he can keep going well, he doesn't pick up any penalties and gets onto those medium tyres later on, he could be very racy towards the end, as you're probably watching Harry and Schofield having a good old battle around and let you get on with it.
What a move from Harry B there, and do you know what? Real plaudits go to both drivers for keeping it clean. Scopefielder gave him room, Harry gave him room, and they went side by side through the exit of turn 4 all the way through to turn 7. And it's Harry that does get the better of the Swedish driver. So the Racing Point does get above the Haas, and Scopefielder now down to 5th. So not a great start from Scope as he's starting to fall back. And you can see those Mercedes have just broken just a slight gap, just a little bit between themselves and Harry after Harry and Scope were battling. Although M. Doran very slowly starting to get himself back into this little battle at the front.
Yeah, he is. That is a good point. M. Doran, just 1.5 seconds, isn't he? He's having a quiet race, isn't he, in terms of just getting on with it and making sure he gets the work done what he needs to do. He's riding on board with him now. He can see the battle happening in front of him, and I'm sure he'll be hoping for some more squabbles between these four, because if he can see this happening, it gives him an opportunity to just close in on this pack, and who knows, M. Doran could be adding to the mix here of fighting for a podium.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we say, we have to say well done to Adri for the 7th position, currently moving up 6 positions. So a great start to the race for the Toro Rosso driver, doing very consistent driving there in 7th. So putting himself in good stead for a decent points haul, which is something that's eluded him quite often so far this season. And we've seen that he's been in good positions and unfortunately made a few mistakes. So hopefully we won't curse him, and he will be able to come home and pick up a few points tonight. And he's got a few fans in the comments tonight, so we can see what these guys are doing when it comes to their tyres. And as you can see, it's 10 laps, of course, and the only one to stop is MJ Cooper, who's on 3-lap old hards. Everyone else has started on the same tyre that they're currently running on. So you've got the top 6 all running on the mediums. Adri is the fastest run, or the top runner on the hard tyres, with Nick LJ Thompson in 9th position. Harry B now lining up Scott, and Scott looking like he's pulled to the inside. Is he the first one in? He is. So the Mercedes peels to the right hand side, and he's taking Harry. In fact, did Harry overtake him going into the pit lane? That was very cheeky.
Scopefielder nearly ran into the back of...
Oh, sorry, not Harry. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
one or the other.
Scopefielder actually very nearly run into the back of that Mercedes. I thought we was going to have a similar incident what we saw a few races back, where just running to the back of the car ahead coming to pit lane. But luckily, as FPL Charlie has left the session, I wonder if he's got connection issues, but FPL Charlie has left the session and now he is ghosted out, and this is just gifting Harry 2nd place, and Harry now jumps up into 2nd place. So I'm not sure what on earth has happened there, but hopefully for Charlie he can get back into this session and recover quickly.
Yeah, worst case scenario for the championship leader, who's seemingly lost and dropped out of the session. Hopefully he can get back in as soon as possible. All drivers do have backup and invites, so they should be able to get back into the session if his internet is willing and helpful. As we've got a slow Renault there, allowing Scopefielder through. So Simon allowing his fellow countryman Scopefielder through. They're obviously Simon yet to stop. Scopefielder is fresh out of the pits, and just pull to the side and let Scopefielder through. So possibly of nationalistic help there from Scope and Zyma. We know that those two are very good friends off track, often chatting to each other, and that allows Scope the position to start chasing back down to Scott, who's leading him by just over a second.
Do you also think that it could be, as we've got, sorry, I will carry on, just White Fountain, Harry and Charlie and Speed Queen have all pitted. White Fountain, our race leader, pitted. That now promotes Adri Lockdock and Nick LJ Thompson up to 1st and 2nd at the minute on those hard tyres. So Adri Lockdock at the moment, if he can keep going as he's doing, he's 11 seconds ahead of Nick, who's also on hard tyres from the beginning of the race. If Adri Lock can keep this up, he's got potential here of really putting some pressure on later on for good point scoring positions. Adri Lock having a fine race so far.
Absolutely, leading by 11.5 seconds. Nick LJ Thompson, who is yet to stop equally. But you've got White Fountain and Harry are currently your top 2. With Scott, he came out and that undercut didn't work on Harry, and it is the Racing Point who's up into 2nd position now. And Schofield are being dragged along as, there we go, Charlie back in to the lobby. Hopefully he can rejoin, but he's now down to 7th position, although his AI has made a stop for him, so that is slightly useful, and that's probably on par with what he was planning on doing when it came to strategy. But with Scott now 9/10 of a second behind Harry, and equally dragging Schofield at 8/10 as well. We've got a battle as Charlie's getting back in. He's been passed by Zyman, so Zyman now up into 7th position, and I'm sure Charlie will be looking at trying to take control of that car, because he's about to lose the position to M. Doran as well. So it's a lot of work for Charlie if he is to get back in the car.
He is back in. The car is not ghosting anymore now, on my screen anyway, and Charlie appears to be back in as M. Doran now passes him. So work to be done for Charlie. That's really unfortunate, wasn't it? Because he was ahead of his teammate, and now he's got to somehow find ways back through and catching him back up with Boy Better Know and Scopefielder. Scopefielder, who's not far behind Scott, as White Fountain does overtake. Sorry, I just see the position change there. White Fountain on Nick, which isn't too surprising really. But Boy Better Know and Scopefielder both running very closely behind Harry, who's going to have some pressure shortly in a minute. It's going to be interesting for him because he was the one doing all the pressure before, and now he's going to have to be the one doing all the defending.
Absolutely, and White Fountain in the net lead does go past Nick up into 2nd position, so it's going to be an easy retake of the lead when Adri makes his stop in a couple of laps time, probably onto the mediums, and it'd be impressive to see if he will even go onto the softs, and depending on how his tyre wear is looking, we do know the softs can go off here pretty sharpish, so we'll look to see what he does later in the race, and because he'll be pretty tasty later, and definitely probably on par for a fastest lap, which does get you that extra point in the championship, which I'm sure he'll be eyeing up as well. As we've got Scott just about 8.5 tenths behind Harry in 4th position as well, as White Fountain does the fastest lap of 1:31.217. We've got Zyman and M. Doran split by 200ths, and it looks like the Renault is going to make a move down the outside of the McLaren, going down towards T1 with Charlie in tow behind. Can Zyman? No, he's deciding against it and tucks in back into the rear wing of the McLaren, and that's going to help out Charlie because it meant that Zyman had to possibly brake a little bit earlier than he was going to. So we've now got a nice trail of cars, and Charlie's going to try and make use of that poorer exit, and he's going to go down the inside, but does he get it slowed down? Just about, and he's going to go deep. Is that going to allow Zyman to come back at him? They're going to go side by side now, are they? As careful as we saw between Scope and Charlie earlier, and it's not quite, a little bit of banging the wheels, but it is Charlie that makes up the position. So back in the car, he's back up into 8th position.
Just slightly ahead. Boy Better Know, he's really putting the pressure on Harry now. He's really close to him down that straight. 0.3 of a second with Scopefield just slightly far back in with 8/10. Scott starting to put the pressure on Harry. I've been riding on board with Scott. Harry has locked up his tyres in a few corners on this lap. So at the moment, Scott's really starting to put the pressure on Harry. Can Harry maintain his nerve and make sure that that flying Mercedes doesn't get past him? But he'll be hoping, Harry, to try and catch up with Nick LJ Thompson as quick as he can to try and pick up a DRS off that Haas to enable him to at least defend against Scott. But Scott is on a mission now. Harry going defensive down that start-finish straight. He knows what Scott's like, as Scott is reeling him in very, very fastly. He's going to go round the outside of Harry, is he? Harry's defending on the inside. Scott then trying to tuck back in, but Harry defends well for now, and Scopefield are not far behind as FPL Charlie just behind manages to get himself up to 7th place now, 3.5 seconds behind this battle for 4th place at the moment.
Scott looking for that Lando Norris-esque move around the outside, wasn't quite coming off, and it got covered off by Harry, and he had to back out of it. But yeah, Harry locked his front left into the final corner, and that meant that Scott had an opportunity of getting a decent run on him down in towards T1, and he's going to get another one. Of course, another DRS detection zone has been passed right now, so we'll get DRS, and in fact Scopefield is going to get a good run. They're going to get a little bit of a double toe Scopefielder here, so he's going to sit behind the two and just get dragged along, and this is where you can possibly save a little bit of battery, a little bit of fuel. You know you're being dragged along by the two cars ahead as they're battling, and so it's going to be It's just getting into a little bit of a rhythm here for Schofielder, not wanting to push too hard because this is all about tyre conservation. You're in that stage of the race now where you don't want to take too much life out in the early stint, or the first part of your stint. And of course, Scott has got a lap extra on those tyres compared to Harry, so he's going to probably want to get past that racing point sooner rather than later. And does Harry get DRS on the car ahead? It looks like he does, so it's going to be a little bit of a benefit to Harry, but Scott is in the tow once again. It's going to be a brave move here for Scott because he's going to have to... Oh, as Harry just about manages to hold off from getting caught up with the Haas, and in fact Scott is going to take... Oh,
Harry's gone off. Yeah, Harry's out.
He's hit the wall. Has he hit the wall there?
Yes. Yes, coming out of turn 2, he just lost it. I don't know what caused him to lose it, but he just suddenly went left straight into the wall, and that, unfortunately for Harry, is him out of this race.
That's a real shame for last week's race winner. Sorry, my R's. And yeah, real shame there. And he was running up, probably in the chance of a podium position. But that has elevated Scott and Schofielder up into 3rd and 4th position. A real shame there for Harry. And he got caught up, just about managed to stop himself from tagging the rear end of Nick L.J. Thompson in the Haas. And it allowed Scott up the inside. And it looked like he might have just got on the power a little bit too early. Kissed that curbing, put himself into the wall. We've seen it done before here, and it's one of those tracks that can really bite you. And if you do get on the power a little bit too early, we know these guys running no assists, they do like to really push the cars to its limits, and unfortunately for Harry, just a little bit too far.
It is, yeah. That's a devastating way for him to finish. Schofielder is keeping the pressure on as Schofielder's teammate Nick L.J. Thompson has given up with those set of hard tyres. He was 16 laps on those hard tyres. He's now coming in. I assume they're coming in for probably a set of mediums. Yes, it is a set of mediums. Schofielder... It's an interesting race for Schofielder, isn't it? Because he had potential to be comfortably in second. It's not quite worked for him. He's just a few mistakes here and there, but he's still there or thereabouts for a good finish tonight. And if he can keep the pressure on Scott ahead, there's potential here for a second place. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 3. I'm just going to have a quick flick through, and that's quickly disappeared, so maybe someone just running wide. But yeah, Schofielder trying to put the pressure on Scott, but FPL Charlie, if you look there, FPL Charlie's now less than 2 seconds behind Schofielder, so since he's come back, he's really put the hammer down now, FPL Charlie, and he'll be looking to try and catch up with this battle for 3rd place at the moment.
And I've just got the gaps from the leader at the front, because I know a lot of you in the comments are looking at what Adri is currently doing and what his gap is. So he's got an 8-second gap between himself and the current net leader, White Fountain. And a pit stop here will cost you, depending on how fast you are in and out of it, it will cost you around 22 to 26 seconds. So that will drop him out into around about 6th or 7th position, depending on how much time these guys can make on him and how long Adri stays out there. So depending on what Adri's strategy is, it's going to be an interesting end to the race, because he's going to be lightning in a bottle.
Schofielder has pitted. This is his second pit stop. Has he picked up wing damage? I'm not sure, but he has pitted from 4th place. He has picked up wing damage. He's having his front wing changed. He's going on for another set of medium tyres, and unfortunately for Schofielder, that is going to demote him all the way down to 7th, 8th, 9th position maybe. So disaster for Schofielder.
It's a real shame once again for another one of the championship hopefuls, and Schofielder is unlike him to make mistakes, but wing damage, as you see there, Charlie really running over the curbs there, and we've seen drivers go off by getting the car unsettled like that before, and that's caught out many drivers, not just no assist but across all performances, whether realistic or equal, of course, that we run on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But Charlie now, he's going to have M. Doran for company, and he's going to look in his mirrors and see that papaya orange McLaren flashing around in the night sky with the tint from the lights, of course, beaming off of it. And I'm sure he's going to want to try and get back ahead of M. Doran a little bit further up the circuit, because he doesn't really want to be defending at this point in the race. He wants to be trying to challenge, but he is back up into a net 3rd position. But we were saying earlier in the race that Doran had done well to kind of pull himself back up into that lead towards the front, and at the moment he's in the fight for a podium.
He really is, as Adrian finally pits and he's on the soft tyres. So it's 9 pretty much qualifying laps now for Adrian. What can he do? It's going to be fascinating to see if he can make up good positions. He's going to come out in 5th place. So that's incident with Drago has retired, unfortunately, but that incident for Schofield, which demoted him down, has now given Adrian 5th place. He's only 5.5 seconds behind Doran on brand new soft tyres, so it's going to be really fascinating to watch him from now till the end of the race to see how many positions he can make up, because surely on brand new set of soft tyres he should also get the fastest lap like you pointed out earlier.
The race is on for Adrian in the Toro Rosso. Can he keep it on the circuit? Can he charge up towards the podium? And he's got that 5-second gap to make up between himself and Doran. But of course, these guys will be running on worn tyres at the end of the race. Adri, he's going to have to really nail these at least first 3 to 4 laps, because those tyres will start to degrade a lot quicker than the rest of these guys out there. Of course, they will have equally done quite a long stint, but those soft tyres, as soon as they start to go off, they really start to go off, and they'll find themselves slipping and sliding all over the track surface. Doran still sitting within DRS of Charlie ahead, but not able to challenge the Mercedes for 3rd position at the moment. But it looks like at the moment we've got White Fountain leading by 6.3 seconds, so it's a comfortable lead for the Belgian Renault driver, with another double podium finish for the Mercedes at the moment, like we saw last week in China. And Doran getting mighty close to the rear end of Charlie, going down into T1, but not close enough. And you can see there that ominous blue flash behind coming into T1 as we saw this battle between 3 and 4, and Adrian now down to 4.8 seconds, so he's taken half a second out these guys in one lap. So he's probably going to want to amp up that pace a little bit more, because he's going to want to really take possibly even around 7 to 8 tenths of a second out these guys a lap. Yeah,
definitely. Just a bit further back, unfortunately, Meg Luppy's race has just gone from bad to worse for him. He's had to come in again for a front wing change. He went off track and collided with the wall, which allowed Nick Thompson to be promoted up to 7th place. So Meg Luppy down in 12th now, his teammate in 11th. So it's unfortunately been a bit of a bad day for the Red Bull team tonight, as it looks like they won't be scoring points. But I just wanted to point out as well, Speed Queen, we've not mentioned her much tonight, and she's quietly going about her race nicely. She's sat in 6th place. Yes, it's probably not where she wants to be, but it's a good position to be in right now, and it'll be good points to pick up. So Speed Queen there, she's having a bit of a lonely race at the minute. She's 9.5 seconds ahead of Nick, and she's 7.5 seconds behind Adrian. So having a bit of a race of her own, but she's going well in 6th place.
There's that fastest lap. It's a 1:30.5, and Doran just about gets it slowed down. He was right in the toe. That was the closest he's been for several laps, but that gap now only down to 3.9 seconds. We've got a yellow in sector 2 and 3. Doran once again having a look at the rear end of Charlie coming up towards turn 4. Doesn't quite get close enough to make a move. Still yellow in 3, and that's now cleared. And we have, as you said, the Red Bulls struggling in 11th and 12th. So unfortunately, a poor session for those two, and Doran still sticking with the Mercedes again, and the Irishman in the McLaren, of course, orange, green and white tinted helmet, and he pulls himself down into the tricky turn 10. DRS will open once again, but he's not close enough to make a challenge attempt down towards turn 11. Not quite close enough this time, and he's going to have to try and stick in behind Charlie coming up through 12 into 13 and get himself set up, because it looks as if T1 is the best opportunity for Doran to get round.
Just further down, Schofielder, who, oh my god, he's just outbraked himself at turn 9 and turn 10, and he was all over the back of the Racing Point Burmeister, looking like he was going to get the move done. Unfortunately, outbraked himself. Schofielder having, by his standards, a poor night tonight. He's on brand new medium tyres compared to Burmeister, who's on 10-lap old hard tyres. You'd imagine Scopefielder, who's right on the back of the racing point once again, coming up to the start-finish straight. You would imagine Scopefielder will get this move done, but ninth place really isn't what he was expecting tonight.
M. Doran being frustrated by Charlie, who's seemingly making that Mercedes 40 feet wide, and he just couldn't get the move done. He went to the outside down into T1. Unfortunately, couldn't get the move done, so he's having to sit behind once again as Scopefielder does get past Burmeister, so up into 9th position for the Swede, and he's now back behind friend Simon, who's equally had a frustrating race. Of course, started at the back of the grid after retiring in qualifying, and hasn't managed to charge through the field like we thought he might do. And unfortunately, Simon in 8th, Scopefielder in 9th. But Adri, 2 seconds between himself and M. Doran, so he's going to be on them in a few laps' time. We've got 6 laps left to go in the race, and this is going to be a nail-biting finish, because this might be a first podium for the Spaniard of Adri Lokdok, and he's going to be really, you can see behind the wheel, those eyes are going to be wide open, staring down the gearbox of that McLaren ahead, just seeing it get closer and closer and closer. Can he reel the 2 in?
It's going to be interesting. I've just noticed as well, he's had his fastest lap stolen off him by Meg Luppy on brand new medium tyres. So unless he can pull out some mighty lap on quite slightly worn soft tyres, he's not going to be getting fastest lap point tonight, as Meg Luppy in 11th will not be allowing anybody to be getting fastest lap award tonight. But Adri Lokdok hovering still around that 2-second mark. Can he get up close to him before these soft tyres inevitably will wear out and fall off that cliff, as we say? As I'm riding on board with him now, he's perilously close now to the back of that McLaren, and you'd imagine if he can get onto the tail of that McLaren, that with this significant pace advantage on these tyres, you'd think in a DRS situation he should get the job done.
We're obviously running hive mind at the moment, because I've just gone on board with him, as you said that as well, sitting directly above Adri's head, and we can see here he's getting ever closer to the likes of M. Doran and Charlie ahead, and it's only now 1.4 seconds, so he's going to catch them in the next lap and a half if he carries on this pace, running out slightly wide there on the exit of turn 12. That gives him a good run through the corners. MJ Coupe now takes that fastest lap of 30 flat, and so that means that here outside of the points no one will be getting the fastest lap. Meg and Coupe swapping fastest laps between themselves, but we'll go on board here with M. Doran just quickly, as we'll see, can he challenge Charlie down into T1? It doesn't look like it, and Charlie not going defensive as he has been for the last few laps, but sticking on the racing line, and M. Doran millimetres from the rear end of that Mercedes. But now Adri Lokdok a second and a half behind. He's going to get himself within DRS range so very shortly.
Yeah, it's very close now, isn't it? 1.4 seconds. M. Doran, as you say, he must be getting very frustrated, stuck behind that Mercedes. Charlie, he's defending very well, isn't he? He's making sure that in the DRS zones, M. Doran just can't get the move. Oh, as they just tag, M. Doran just gives the Mercedes a nice little nudge, as if to say, don't forget I'm here. I am going to make these last few laps really awkward for you. He's all over the rear wing of that Mercedes once again in DRS zone. Charlie weaving all over the track, trying to make sure M. Doran doesn't get a good tow, and M. Doran, he's just got to remain calm, remain focused, and hopefully get a good run out of the final corner to get the DRS working at its full effectiveness. But look at Adri Lokdok, it's 0.7 of a second now. He's going to get DRS down this straight shortly, so Adri Lokdok is going to be filling M. Doran's mirrors up shortly, and M. Doran's not only going to have to try and attack Charlie, but he's going to have to try and defend from Adri Lokdok. It's going to be fascinating last few laps.
Here comes Adri. That car is going to be fueled with rocket fuel down towards turn 1. He's going to get a mega double tow off the 2 cars ahead. Now, this is where we see you've got the pace. We've seen that you've been able to charge up to these back. How is your racecraft? Can you get past them cleanly? And because these guys, we've seen There he goes. He peels to the inside of the McLaren. That's one. Is he going to get the move done up into turn 4? He's going to go side by side with M. Doran. M. Doran trying to hold on to it, but Adri sweeps across up onto into 4th position. Now, one more car ahead to get onto the podium. Can Adri do it? He's got 3.5 laps left to go. He's got to get past Charlie, and that is no mean feat.
No, Charlie he's shown tonight, hasn't he? And he's shown in previous races how good he is at defending. But this is going to be some ask, isn't it? A car on super fast tyres against 13-lap-old hard tyres. You'd imagine Charlie's going to have to try everything possible. It's usually difficult to get DRS move done on that section, but if Adri Lockdock can stay under that rear wing of the Mercedes, it's surely going to be an easy pass for Adri Lockdock, but Charlie's definitely not going to make it easy for him.
No, absolutely not. He will do all he can. We know that Charlie likes to play the Jack Aitken card and just try and break the toe by moving side to side as long as you've got a big enough gap. As Adri getting ever closer. Now, this is the opportunity. He's within 0.2 of a second between himself and Charlie. This should be pretty much elementary, and here comes Adri Lockdock to get himself onto the podium. He decides to go to the outside line, down into T1. He's already up into P3 before they get to T1. Charlie has nothing to answer it. Can he use the second DRS trait to get back past the Toro Rosso? Now the Toro Rosso goes from being the hunter to the hunted. Charlie's going to look down to the inside into T4 and sweeps down the inside. There's a little bit of contact between the two. Charlie back up into 3rd place.
Wow. Charlie just does not give up, does he? This is an epic battle for 3rd place at the moment. M. Doran, let's not forget about him. M. Doran is still right there with these two, so if there's any contact, any incident whatsoever of these two ahead, M. Doran could still sneak a 3rd place here, so this is going to go right down to the wire at the moment. Who is going to take 3rd place? I cannot call it.
Adri making a big mistake coming down into turn 10. Just locked the tyres, got the car sideways, and that's allowed M. Doran to go side by side with him down towards turn 11. Doesn't quite manage to get the move done, but that will unnerve the Toro Rosso driver, and he'll know that these tyres will start to go off. So he needs to close up to that gap, or needs to close that gap between himself and Charlie, because now he's going to have M. Doran still sticking with him. You can see the gap now between himself and Charlie up at 0.7 of a second. So he's not really going to have the opportunity attacking down in towards turn 1 this lap. He's going to have to spend another lap just recomposing, just getting back into the zone, or has he had we know those tyres are still working. Has he got a good enough launch off the final corner to attack down into turn 1? It's going to get close, but it's going to have to be a real deep lunge. But he's going to go for it. There's going to be contact, and there is contact between the two. That was a late move from there. That's 3 seconds for Adri. That's devastating for him, and he's now going to have to clear. He's going to have to clear Charlie, and like we said, Charlie is a rolling roadblock for anyone to get past. And he's going to have to clear him and move up the road by 3 seconds. But at the moment, with a lap and a half to go, you'd say is Charlie trying to really put the car everywhere. As Adri, that might have dashed his hopes for a podium tonight.
I was watching that turn 1 incident through my fingers then. I thought Adri Lockdock was going to take Charlie out there, but somehow Charlie probably seen him coming and just a bang of wheels there, and they carried on. But yeah, Adri Lockdock just cut the second corner, unfortunately, and that 3 seconds is pretty much now, I'd say, cost him of a podium place now. He's just locked his front right up again there. It's frustrating, isn't it, for Adri Lockdock, because the opportunity was there for him to grab that 3rd place tonight, and he could still well do if Charlie and M. Doran make a mistake, but it seems unlikely at the moment now. But Adri Lockdock's got a lot of work to do now if he's going to steal 3rd places. He's going to probably get the move done again. He's going to action replay around the outside once again, gets the move done once again. Charlie will be hoping to do exactly the same as what he did last time on Adri Lockdock, and next DRS zone, stay under the rear wing of that Toro Rosso and get the move taken back. But Charlie, is he going to get the move done? Oh, they touch. Charlie's spun. Oh no! Oh no! Charlie has lost it trying to get the move done on Adri Lockdock, and that has now promoted M. Doran. So Charlie now has I would say lost third place, wouldn't you? And M. Doran now looks the favourite for the final podium position.
Yeah, and exactly as you were saying, M. Doran just sitting behind these two, waiting for something to happen, and it did, and it was on the last lap of the race, as White Fountain is not too far up the road, as he will be coming across the line, and that will be frustrating. The two went side by side, and this time Adri shut the door on him, and we'll check in with White Fountain. He's currently just leaving turn 13. A couple more turns for the Belgian driver, as we've still got this battle for Adri, but it looks like he's going to have another of a gap between himself and M. Doran, as White Fountain comes across the line. It's another win for him. What a season he's having here at the No Assist Championship. White Fountain crosses the line. He is your race winner of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Scott is going to come across the line. It's another podium for the reigning champion, as MJ Coupe picks up 3 seconds on the last lap. It's going to be Adrian Lockdown who's going to cross the line on third, but he will drop off the podium. So bitterly disappointing for him. He comes home in 4th position. Charlie, after that late contact and spin, is in 5th. Speed Queen will come home in 6th, with Nick L.J. Thompson in 7th. Simon equally frustrated in 8th position, knowing that he could have possibly had a better end to the race. Burmeister is down in 9th position. He's going to come across the line. He's been on his own for a while, so he's going to come across the line now. Picks up 2 championship points, and Scopefielder is equally coming up to the final corner of the race. And as you said, it's been a race to forget for Scope, and he comes across the line. He will be the last one inside the points and takes home the fastest lap of the race. So a little bit of justice for Scopefield there after having a poor race. He steals that fastest lap, which gets him an extra championship point, as MJ Coupe is our last one on the lead lap. And he's coming up to the final corner now, and he picks up another 3 seconds. So a scruffy last lap for the Red Bull driver, who will be annoyed with his performance tonight. Knew that points are on the table as he comes across the line, and it ends a frustrating race for the Red Bulls, but an absolutely dominant one for White Fountain.
The driver of the day, he has to be, doesn't he? White Fountain just got the job done in qualifying. No need for any warm-up laps, and then in the race, nobody really got it close to him, did they? There was opportunities at the start, but that, I think what was crucial for him was that battle for second place between the 4 drivers that allowed White Fountain just to pull that gap and make it larger. And unfortunately for the guys behind, like Scott and Charlie and the others, they just couldn't get near White Fountain in the end. So huge congratulations to him, and huge congratulations to Scott, who came home in second, with M. Doran, who had a superb race to come home in third.
Yeah, fantastic race there for the top 3, and Scott will be delighted back on the podium. And but White Fountain, I believe that's a 4th race win of the season for him, so he'll be happy to get himself back up onto the top step. But there are your race results. It's White Fountain in first in the Renault in 44 minutes 53 seconds, 10 or almost 10 seconds ahead of Scott in second position. M. Doran inherited third position from Andrew Lockdock, who unfortunately misses out on his first podium position by picking up 3 seconds on the penultimate lap, moving up from 13th. Fantastic race for the Spaniard. FPL Charlie is down in 5th after that late contact with Speed Queen in 6th. Nick L.J. Thompson is in 7th, with Simon, Burmeister and Scopefielder in the final points paying positions, with the 2 Red Bulls outside. And unfortunately we lost Dragio and we lost Harry after contact with the walls earlier in the race. Well, let's take a breath. Let's take stock of that race, and what are the highlights there?
That is a good point, because there was, early on especially, there was so many great battles, not only for that second place that we put out, but some great battles further down. A battle for 7th place, 7th to 10th. There was superb overtaking throughout, some great defending from Charlie. Unfortunately, at the end, lost out with contact with Adri Lockdock. But Yeah, if you was to make a highlights package, I'd imagine it'd be the vast majority of the race. It was action throughout. It was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I don't think I've stopped talking for the past hour and a half or so. So, yeah, what a session we've had this evening. Fantastic qualifying. We saw some blistering laps from the likes of White Fountain and Scopefielder, and a race that equally matched up. And yes, White Fountain stretched that lead and absolutely dominated the race in the end. But the battle for third, fourth, fifth, and even sixth position throughout the race was absolutely scintillating. And whilst we wait for the guys to just join up with the lobby and wait for Sab to get the questions ready for these guys for their podium positions. We'll just let you know what's going on for the rest of the week. Of course, this is Monday night, so it's the No Assist Championship. And that's always Sab and I in the commentary box from 8 p.m. on YouTube. Tuesday nights is the Realistic Performance League, and that is Tim and Malc equally 8 p.m. on YouTube. Wednesday nights is the Equal Performance Leagues, F1, F2, and F3. 3 leagues on a Wednesday, and you can find that equally with Tim on F1, Dan on F2 and Malc on F3. And then on Thursday nights, you've got the F1 podcast with Sab and I talking all things F1. And you've got the GT Sport DTM League, and that has Sam commentating on that one. So plenty more racing for yourselves for the rest of the week. So if you're not subscribed already to the YouTube channel, make sure you press the button and ding the bell to be notified every time we go live. But I believe that we've got at least the top 2 in the group. We'll see if M. Doran does join us later in the session. But Sab, have you got any questions for the victors this evening?
Well, I'd just like to say congratulations to White Fountain. You absolutely smashed qualifying with that one and only lap, and then race trim. You just didn't look back. You started off well. Scott gave you a bit of pressure early on, but inevitably you ran off into the lead and took the race quite comfortably. And how was the race in qualifying for yourself tonight?
Thank you very much. Qualifying was on first tried on the hard tires, but I spun in turn 2. So it was really a one-shot qualification on the mediums, and the lap was good but not perfect. And well, the race, yeah, in the beginning I had some pressure from Scope on the start, and boy better know. The first laps it was really close, but I don't know really what happened behind me, but suddenly Harry was behind me, and I don't know why Scope fell back so much, but after the pit stops it was really controlling the race, seeing my ERS and fuel and just making it to the end without losing a front wing or something like that.
Oh yeah, you drove superbly tonight. Congratulations on yet another win this season. Scott, I will move on to you. You had a very, very good battle for second place. It was superb battling between you and your teammates, Scopefielder and even Harry at one point. You ended up the victor out of you four. How was that battle during the early stages of the race between you four for that second place?
It was good. It was keeping me on my toes, I must admit. But it was. I'm a bit frustrated that we all battled. But that's what sort of led to White Fountain getting away. I knew I had maybe not quicker, but I definitely was on par with his pace. You know, looking at the lap times, and I was just having to defend. And then I was looking in the mirrors, making mistakes, locking up, and then the next minute he was 5 seconds down the road. And then I sort of burnt out my tyres. So then Harry got past. I said to Harry, "I'm not going to battle. Just if you're quicker, go for it." But then it sort of all went Pete Tong from there, really. But hey, look, second place, more points. Points met prizes.
Exactly. Yes, it's keeping you in contention for the championship, isn't it? Yeah. Gareth, do you have any questions for these two just before we round off?
Yeah, I mean, just finally, just to finish off with the both of you, it's Singapore next. We're back on street circuits, so it's gonna be another track that will test you when it comes to concentration. And starting with White Fountain, you've moved up. I believe that puts you up into third position in the championship. You're chasing this one down because you're not out of it yet, and this is your fourth win this season, so it's been a slightly inconsistent season. You tend to either have a great race or win it, or have a poor race or win it, I should say. So is it you just going to keep pushing towards the end?
Yeah, my ups are really up and my downs are really down in this league. Well, next week Singapore, it's a track I really like. we saw it on television last weekend. So I don't know if I'm still in championship contention, because all the drivers are very consistent and always end up there. So I just take it race by race, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, well, fantastic result from yourself tonight. Once again, another dominant victory. And just finally to Scott, I think that puts you up into second position behind your teammate. I believe Charlie just about holds on to the lead. How does this work towards the end of the season? Do you push him? Do you work as a team? Because obviously you're going to want to retain your championship, but I'm sure equally at some point something's going to have to come to a head between you two.
I don't actually know. I don't know. We work well together. You know, in qualifying and stuff. You know, we always go through each other's setups and help each other out. But it's one of them things where I always say it as friends off track, enemies on track. You know, I'll help him out wherever I can. But obviously, you know, I don't know how many points I am behind him now. But you know, how many is there left? 3 rounds left now, and anyone now in the next 3 races as a DNF for a bad round, it really could ruin it. So I'm hoping not too bad at Singapore, but hopefully we can sort of, you know, consistent qualifying again. That's twice in a row now. I've qualified well, finished well, you know, and hopefully we can bring it home. Don't get me wrong, I will battle Charlie. I will go for it, but I don't want to be doing it at Hamilton and Rosberg.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we know what happened last time we saw 2 Mercedes heading up the championship, and so yeah, hopefully it'll be a little bit more friendly between the two. But that does stretch your lead in the constructors. That does stretch your lead out in the constructors. So that's something to cheer about. But yeah, congratulations, fellas! Fantastic race from yourselves tonight. Equally to M. Doran, unfortunately couldn't join us this evening.
Thank you.
Cracking race from all 3 of you. And that's us done for this evening. And Sab, just to wrap up for the evening, it was another fantastic race here on Monday nights, and these guys are really knocking it out of the park at the moment.
They are, and another guy I just feel sorry for in a way was Adrian Lockdock, because his strategy was near on perfect, wasn't it, to pick up a podium tonight, and unfortunately just picked up that 3-second time penalty, cutting that corner, and allowed M. Doran to steal 3rd place off him. But yeah, like you say, absolutely superb race once again from everyone in the race, not just the guys at the front showing what they can do, but all the way down to 10th place. We had superb battles everywhere. So yeah, I cannot wait for Singapore with these guys, because Singapore is a real test, isn't it, round the streets there. So these guys once again will be giving us another great race, I hope.
Yeah, and never shy away from some weather around Singapore, so that might throw an extra bit of excitement into the mix. So can't wait for next week, round 10 of the Gnosis Championship. Of course, you can, like I said, you can keep up with round 9. For the rest of the leagues, you've got realistic performance tomorrow night with Tim and Malc. Wednesday night, you've got round 9 at the Bahrain Grand Prix. For the equal performance leagues, F1, F2 and F3. Plenty more racing in F1 2019. Equally, GT Sport, DTM League on a Thursday night, or the F1 podcast, where Sab and I will be wrapping up from what happened at this week's Singapore Grand Prix, and equally touching on, of course, the esports results here on the leagues over the week. So plenty of stuff to talk about on Thursday. So looking forward to that one. But if you'd like to catch up with the Invictus Racing League on all of our socials, of course, it's at Invictus RL on Twitter and Instagram, Invictus Racing League on Facebook. If you'd like to get yourself on the grid for next season, go to the website, invictusracingleague.com, go to the Apply to Race section, and let us know what league you're after getting yourself into. Of course, we want to get more people involved in the league as possible. And go to the website for any more information. If you'd like to follow Sab and I on the socials, it's at GT2_driving, for myself at Alan Sabatino, for Sab. But that's us done for round 9. Round 10 is the Singapore Grand Prix, and we cannot wait for it. And with thanks very much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the race tonight, and hope you have a great week. Enjoy the racing. We will see you next Monday. Good night.